In this video, I'm going to walk you through a very simple video first podcast setup to be able to record remotely first. And if you want to do an in-person podcast recording, you can as well. So watch through to the end. And if you want the gear list, it's going to be in the description below. And if you want a custom 90-day content roadmap to maximize your output, your messaging, and your results with your business, go ahead and click below to apply to work directly with us so you can get a free 90-day customized roadmap. Let's get into it. For the sake of efficiency, I actually recommend remote podcasting over in-person podcasting. I've done both, and I can certainly recommend doing the remote podcasting first because it expands your ability to reach the right guests and to be able to create consistent output to iterate, receive feedback, and then refine your content strategy from there. With video podcasting specifically, look, you're looking at the exact system and the exact tools and everything that you need to look and sound exactly like this. I'm going to show you the 3 tools that I recommend you get for your remote first video podcasting. First is going to be a high quality camera. Now, I don't mind telling you that it's okay to use the webcam on your laptop. If you're working with Mac, they have a decent quality webcam already built into their laptops, but you can also connect your iPhone, which shoots at 4K depending on the model that you have, and you can use that and connect it and pair it to your Mac and use that as a webcam. You can have a tripod like this holding your camera, and in some cases it'll come with an attachment for your phone and you can put it right in front of you so as it looks like you're talking to the guest. Now, I wouldn't overcomplicate it further than that when you're first starting out your video content strategy, specifically your video first podcast strategy. But if you want to take it a notch up, here's the camera that I would recommend. This is going to hurt a little bit and it's definitely an investment, but it's the camera that I use. It's the Sony Alpha 7 IV mirrorless camera. The reason why I recommend this camera, it performs really, really well in low light settings so that you don't need a ton of lighting to make sure that you look good. You can also connect it straight to your laptop with the USB-C cable that comes with the packaging. From there, you'll want to make sure that the settings are appropriately. And again, this is where it can get a little bit complex if you've never worked with a mirrorless camera or a DSLR in the past. But once you have your settings dialed in, you can then make any video presentation, video, or even podcasts look like magic, kind of like you see here. I just want to make sure that you have the right tools to get started and create consistent content over the next 90 days, because that's how long it takes to build the habit of content creation, or really any other habit for that matter. The second step is going to be your microphone. Here I have a Shure SM7V, not to be confused with the Shure SM7B. This is the Shure SM7B. This thing is a workhorse. It's incredible, but it requires a little bit more technology, so to speak, to get you up and running. In fact, I have an audio interface and I have a FET head, which helps with the, let's just say in layman's terms, it helps crank up the volume on your Shure SM7B. These types of microphones, specific to the Shure SM7B, have kind of like a low volume range in layman's terms, of course. If you're an audio engineering expert, this will sound like garbage, but for the sake of the audience, I'm just telling you in a simplified version. So they're used typically for broadcasting and they don't pick up a lot of background noise, which again makes them perfect for podcasting, and which is why your favorite podcaster uses them. But I don't want to overcomplicate the process. Again, this is why I recommend the Shure SM7V. It's a great podcasting mic. It's made from the same company. And the great part about it is, if you could see here, I have it plugged in directly to my laptop via USB-C. Now, you don't have to buy an additional audio interface. You don't have to buy a cloud lifter or a FET head to make sure that your sound sounds appropriately. As you can hear from the tone of my voice and the volume on this video, it sounds just about right. To make the process a lot smoother and easier to record your videos, even if they're monologue videos like this one, I recommend housing and recording your recordings on Riverside.fm. I've used them for video podcasting for the last 2.5 to 3 years, and I actually started using them for my own talking head videos. I found that it was easier to record there than to get a memory card, fill it up, take it out of the card, put it onto my hard drive, download the footage, bring it into an editor. It just seemed a lot more complicated. With Riverside.fm, there are built-in editing tools that you can use to edit your video first podcast. And then from there, you can also take the transcription of each episode and plug it into any AI tool to generate LinkedIn posts, Twitter posts, and more. In fact, this is what we do for our clients. But rather than using AI to completely replace their tone of voice, we have trained certain models or have trained ourselves to ensure that we know exactly how each content should sound and giving it that human element piece to it. Otherwise, it sounds like the content that everybody else posts online using AI tools. And for the record, it doesn't stand out. So the 3 tools that you'll need are the camera, the microphone, and good software. This is going to be your simplest setup for podcasting in a remote environment. Oh, and by the way, of course, you'll want to have a handy dandy tripod like this one or the one that my camera is sitting on right now to ensure that you have somewhere to prop your phone or your camera on. Now, if you wanted to do an in-person recording of your next video podcast, if you have somebody come over the house or your office space, and you want to figure out how to dial in your audio and your video, listen up. This one's for you. This is going to be kind of like that more complex, advanced podcast production studio type of thing, but I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible to ensure maximum efficiency. So what I would recommend is getting the 2 microphones, the Shure SM7V, and getting 2 of the same thing, or 2 of the Shure SM7B. With the Shure SM7B, you'll need the Fed head or a cloud lifter and potentially a secondary XLR cable. Once you're done there, I would recommend you getting a Zoom H4n Pro or the latest model. This is the model that I have. From here, you'll need a memory card that'll be inserted on the side right here of the H4n Pro. You'll need 2 XLR cables. Since this has 2 outputs, you'll go ahead and have the 2 XLR cables hooked into here. You'll need a pair of headphones that you'll be able to plug into the side here to make sure that your audio levels are okay. I would highly advise and recommend that you actually plug it into your power supply. Why? Because this battery drains incredibly fast. In fact, if you use the 2 AA's in the back, you're pretty much going to run out of battery with one recording. So I highly recommend that you actually plug it in for power for the duration of your podcast. From there, once you're recording, I would make sure that your audio levels are synced appropriately. Make sure that the volume on each microphone is not clipping, okay? Because you don't want distorted audio at the end of the recording. And you're able to ensure that you have enough space in your memory card to record for the entire duration. As a backup, I would recommend you get some Shure wireless microphones like these. Rode creates them. Newer has some as well, but get the ones that you're going to be satisfied with and know how to work. You'll be able to plug one of the receivers into one of your cameras and then have each one of the wireless microphones pinned to either the guest and yourself on your shirts, or if you have a microphone stand like this, which all Shures have, you can pin it on the side here. Now, when you have the wireless microphone pinned to the side of your microphone, make sure that you're receiving signal on your receiver, that both microphones are turned on. This is just a backup. Why? Because the worst thing that could happen is you're recording, it starts clipping. For some reason or another, you don't get signal from one of the microphones or it stops working halfway, and then you don't have backup audio, or the backup audio on your cameras is way too far away and it's not good enough for your video podcast. Again, this is why I recommend remote first, because it's going to overcomplicate the process. But nonetheless, if you have a backup microphone like the wireless one that I just showed you, you have your 2 microphones plugged into the H4n Pro Zoom, right? You have your audio levels set, you should be good there in the audio department. This is the easier part in my personal opinion, which is the video setup. You have 2 cameras at a minimum, but 2 cameras, and you have to have zoom lenses for each one of those cameras. Zoom lenses meaning that they're not, 16 millimeter. You have to have something along the range of like a 50 millimeter and up. So that way you can zoom in kind of like this to your guest and they don't seem that far away. Now you would have one camera pointed at one person in the podcast, your guest or yourself, and then the other camera pointed at your other guest. Now, rather than using the camera battery, I highly recommend you get some dummy batteries that can plug directly into a power supply for your camera. This is a Go9 battery pack, and I'll link the battery packs in the description or gear list below. And the reason being is if you charge your camera battery and it runs out of juice halfway through, it's going to suck. It's a moot point, right? And so if you have 2 cameras or 3 cameras for that matter, one facing each guest and then the third camera facing both of you, you'll want to have it to a direct power supply using a dummy battery. Now, if you have a USB-C that's long enough to plug into your computer or laptop, it can charge the camera for the Sony Alpha A7 IVs. But if you don't, which I probably wouldn't recommend you do anyhow, you can definitely get those dummy batteries to make sure that you don't run out of juice. Now, you'll have the 2 cameras obviously on 2 different tripods, and you'll want to make sure that you have enough memory for each of those cameras. So in this case, you will have to use memory cards unless you want to do a very complicated process, which is using video switchers and that sort of thing. And that'll be a video for another time, which I've used in the past. But if you don't, what you'll do is you'll have something like a SanDisk 256 gigabyte or 512 gigabyte memory card, just like this one here. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. And you'll have each one inserted into your cameras, right? Make sure they're empty so that way you have enough space to record your video podcast, because those conversations can last over an hour. And make sure that your screen on the camera is facing you. This is why I recommend the A7 IVs, because you could flip the screen and make sure that it faces you. Now, you could go a step further and connect each camera to a separate display to make sure that you could see, whether it's a small external monitor like this Neewer, or even a television or a computer monitor. You could do that, but again, this is overcomplicated, an already complicated process. Look, what I want you to take away from this video is you can complicate this process as much as you want, but that's not what we do with the 90-day roadmap. With the 90-day roadmap, the goal here is to help you record your first 12 episodes, lock them in, get some initial feedback, and then iterate from there. Because what you don't want doing is overcomplicating the setup process before you have your MVP, what we call your minimally viable podcast. Once you have your messaging down right, once you have your guest selection down right, once you have enough episodes in the can, then you can reinvest back into getting better gear, hiring a production team, hiring, heck, even us, if you have not already worked with us, to help you get set up the right way. Now, I'll be honest with you. If you wanted me to come to your location to set up your video podcast studio, it could run you as much as $20,000 to $30,000 just for my fee, not including the equipment. I don't want you to run the risk of having to pay myself or someone else that particular fee in order for you to set up your podcast studio. Unless you want to, of course, I'm not going to tell you no, but what I want more than anything is for you to create a content system that you can consistently create content with and generate high impact content for your business, for yourself, for your future, so that you could do this for 3, 5, 10 years to come if you wanted to, and not burn out on the first year. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you're a 6 to 7 figure entrepreneur, business owner, coach, executive, employee even, and you're looking to start your video first podcast, go ahead and apply in the link in the description below. We'd love to work with you to install our 90-day content roadmap into your workflow and make sure that we get you up and running the right way. Thanks for watching.